Season 1 really stuck to the source material, focusing on Nola's love life. But now that that story's wrapped, where do we go for Season 2, and does it work? Hey guys, it's Kristen, and today we are talking about Season 2 of Netflix's show, She's Gotta Have It. The series is an adaptation of the Spike Lee film and stars DeWanda Wise as Nola Darling, a Brooklyn-based artist struggling to stay true to herself and her dreams. In Season 1, she also struggled to divide her time up between her 3 lovers. In Season 2, we see Nola focus more on growth, her art, and the messages she wants to send out into the world. What's interesting here is that Season 1 really stuck to the source material, focusing on Nola's love life. But now that that story's wrapped, where do we go for Season 2, and does it work? We're about to get into it. But first, consider subscribing if you like my videos, and drop down in the comments so we can talk about She's Gotta Have It together. Whether you agree or disagree with me, that is totally fine. I just want to hear your opinion. First off, let's start with the good. What I really enjoy about Spike Lee and his work is that all of his projects feel like a love letter to Brooklyn, to New York, to black art, including some of his own past projects, Sup, Tina, and Mookie, and to people of color and the triumphs and tribulations that we deal with. For instance, when Nola's My Name Isn't campaign starts going really wide and gets a lot of spotlight, we see her struggle working with this brand who chases after her with their only black executive just for show, and then they end up changing direction and wanting final creative control of her work. Or she goes to this retreat that is supposed to uplift black art and artists, only to find out that it's actually being funded by a really problematic white guy. I also really enjoyed the episode where they went to Puerto Rico and spent time there post Hurricane Maria, diving into the struggles that we're facing there and just the people and the beauty that Puerto Rico has to offer. I also have to say, She's Gotta Have It continues to be a win visually, cinematically, sonically. It is just shot so beautifully, taking in the bright, beautiful colors of the annual Prince celebration, Purple People Party, the wonder of Coney Island, the devastation and beauty in Puerto Rico, and the rich colors and styles and personalities of the people in Brooklyn. And the soundtrack, man, is just off the charts. Mars also continues to be another huge standout for me. Anthony Ramos just really brings this humor, but also this depth to Mars, especially this season as we get to see him grow up a bit more. And I have to say, one of my favorite moments in literally the entire series of She's Gotta Have It so far was when Mars performed that song at Winnie's place. Oh my god, that voice, the voice of an angel, it really got me in my feels. I'm like, when is this song gonna be on, Spotify or something? It was just so beautiful, and I mean, it makes sense because Anthony Ramos is a Broadway superstar. He's about to lead the In the Heights musical movie adaptation. This guy just has so much going on, and his voice is perfection. I also love the cameos that we got this season. We had so many legendary people of color coming through, including Fat Joe, Rosie Perez, my man Sway Calloway, Norm Lewis, and those epic Nation Time artist cameos like Amy Sherald, the woman who did Michelle Obama's portrait. Yeah, pretty epic. Now, for those of you who have seen my Season 1 review of She's Gotta Have It, I'll leave a link here if you haven't, but you will know that I was not really a huge fan of Season 1, and I especially was not a huge fan of Nola Darling as a character. After watching the original film, I just found it very interesting that even though it was the same source material, I connected to Nola in different ways. I think in the original film, you can really see very clearly that the men in her life are trying to control her, that they treat her like an object, and that they overall just kind of sucked. But in the TV show, in Season 1, I really felt like Nola was the one that was in a lot of control here, and that I didn't think the guys were as terrible. I think that we can see that kind of holds true, as in Season 2, we see Nola actually continue her friendships with Greer and Mars. Jamie, however, is still terrible. But I do want to say that from Season 1 to Season 2, I did see a big growth in Nola, and I was pleasantly surprised. While she's still very free-spirited, I think they kind of shifted their approach in the way that that was portrayed. We got to see her struggle with Opal, who is very controlling and who kind of treats Nola like a little kid, and that was seen in a more negative light, which I appreciated because I think that it did give us a chance to connect more with Nola and enjoy seeing her be a free spirit. Now let's get into some of the issues that I had around this show. I would say that my biggest problem with Season 2 is that without the source material, now that they've already wrapped up everything with Nola and her relationships with Mars, Greer, Jamie, and Opal, it feels like there's no solid storyline to push this season forward. Obviously we're following Nola's journey with her art, but it feels like now they're trying to bring these characters back from Season season 1 that don't really have a purpose anymore. You know, they want to add these storylines to keep Greer around, but there's not much going on for him, so he kind of serves as someone who just like is there supporting Nola's art, or who will like randomly meet up with her for coffee to talk about interracial relationships. Or you know, there's Jamie, who really has no reason to be in season 2 at all, randomly gets these storylines where he's stalking his ex-wife and hiring guys to beat up her boyfriend. It really has nothing to do with the show, and the moments like this, they don't progress the storyline forward. If anything, they feel like they kind of halt the story that's going on and come out of nowhere in this really jarring way. You know, I think there's actually a lot of moments like that where they'll bring up a character from the past for a minute and resolve something for them too quickly that wasn't built up over the course of the season, so it just feels really hollow. For instance, there's Papo, now known as Divine, and in one episode he mentions that he doesn't have a relationship with his daughter and that really upsets him, and then a few scenes later in that same episode, all of a sudden his daughter appears and they resolve everything and it's fine. And I was kind of like, that was so quick and abrupt. There was no lead up, there was nothing going on there that, you know, made that story feel more impactful. If anything, it kind of actually felt like fake. I just didn't feel the connection there. Or there's Mars, who gets not one, but 2 different bombs dropped on him this season from Clorinda and his mom. These are both moments that should be really impactful and are definitely important to talk about, but because they just came out of nowhere, there was no lead up, they weren't mentioned beforehand, it just felt like out of place. Like the story wasn't set up in a way to give you that real true emotional moment you're supposed to have. Although I will say Mars is one of the few returning characters who definitely has a presence and who has a purpose, and by the end of the season it feels like we are about to start a whole new story, a whole new journey, a whole new beginning for him. I also think that while season 1 really focused on Nola and her relationships with her lovers, season 2 really missed a huge opportunity to focus on Nola and her female friendships. Like Shemeka and Clorinda are pretty much main characters in this season, and yet we barely dive into their storylines and what's going on with them. They don't really develop them as characters, they don't really develop their relationship and friendship with Nola. They seem to just appear as needed when a point needs to be made. Because of that, the messages lose their impact and they do feel hollow. There were also some issues for me in terms of pacing, where scenes either felt really choppy and all over the place, or really long and dragged out, which I think really connects to the script and the fact that this story just did not feel like it had a purpose or a real solid storyline to focus on. When it comes down to it, I think that there were some really beautiful and important messages that we got in She's Gotta Have It, but at the same time I did not see a real reason why we would need a second season. While things happened, much of it didn't develop the characters or move the storyline forward. I would love to know what you guys thought about She's Gotta Have It though. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you love Mars as much as I did? Make sure to leave a comment and let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, I have a playlist right here for you full of Netflix reviews for your viewing pleasure. I hope you'll check them out. Alright, see ya!